Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're joining us from. And you're so welcome here. Thank you so much for tuning into our channel. We are an NPO called Africa Accelerated Economic Development. We are interested in prioritizing the economic development of Africa, and one way of doing that it is through industrialization. Hence, we talk about manufacturing opportunities, small and medium manufacturing opportunities in Africa, going through it country by country. Country by country, because manufacturing is adding value. We are known to not add value to our products, and by not adding value to our natural products, natural resources, we are losing profits, and we are not creating employment for our people on the continent. Has high unemployment levels, and in trying to combat these problems, I know it's something that is a partnership between the governments and us, the ordinary population. But I want to highlight the part that we can play, the contribution that we can make, and if more of us just take up these opportunities, the impact is tremendous. The impact can make a real felt difference. Hence, we talk about manufacturing opportunities, and today we're talking about Rwanda. Rwanda is a small country in East Africa. It is bordered by, to the north, it shares a border with Uganda. To the west, the DRC, Democratic Republic of Congo. To the east, it shares a border with Tanzania, and to the south, it shares a border with Burundi. It has a population of 14 million people, and their GDP is also 14.35 billion US dollars, and that makes their GDP per capita about 1018. It is not bad compared to other African countries, though it is still not satisfactory. It is not bad because of the efforts of the government. The government has invested and continues to invest a lot in infrastructure, like roads, rail, telephone and stuff like that, electricity, water and all that, because the presence, the availability of infrastructure, it makes doing business very easy because these things are available. It is not impossible to do business without them, but it's extremely hard. It is not impossible based on the few people in the past who have made it, but it is extremely hard. Now in Rwanda, the government is investing heavily in infrastructure. Therefore, doing business there should not be as difficult as elsewhere on the continent. And also, the government has come out very strongly against corruption. It makes it one of the countries in Africa where they rate very highly on transparency. That also makes doing business there very easy, because no one is going to ask you some money that they are not supposed to be asking from you. So it ranks high on transparency. Now, going into the economy is to a large extent still very agrarian, because that is evidenced by having the GDP. Agriculture contributes 75% of the GDP. It clearly shows that the economy is very agrarian, and that means that the economy is not diversified, or diversified to a very less extent. Also, agriculture employs 85% of the workforce, and 1/3 of the population is involved in agriculture, particularly subsistence agriculture. So these facts show that there is a need to diversify the economy. There are countries, not country, I'm sorry, there are companies that are doing manufacturing, but the fact that agriculture contributes so much, it shows that there is room for more companies to come in and do manufacturing. There is room for many other companies to take up manufacturing in Rwanda. And the first opportunity that exists is in agriculture itself. The government wants to mechanize farming methods, because with mechanized farming methods, productivity and farm yield goes up. And so there are opportunities in doing agriculture in Rwanda, particularly if you bring in better modern farming methods like using implements and tractors and stuff like that to improve the productivity of farms. And springing directly from that is agro-processing, where you now take farm produce and you add value to it. And they produce beans, sorghum. These are some of the popular ones. They're not the only ones, but some of the popular farm produce. There are beans. You can cook and can beans, or you can dry them, package them, and export them, sell them and export them. There's also sorghum, potatoes. There are lots of things you can do with potatoes. Potato chips, dry potato chips, and stuff like that. They also have a lot of bananas. From bananas you can actually make from banana stem you can actually make a cloth textile that you can make from that. And also wigs. You can make ladies wigs from that plant, because it gives fruits once only, and thereafter it just occupies space. So you can make wigs from that. There are products. You can go online. We always say on this channel that there are so many things that you can do, and you can teach yourself the technical skills of how to do these things. Just go online, Google it up, and also watch videos how to do these things. Teach yourself the technical skill before you go into business. Also, they have cassava and they have cotton. And now the products, but we said these are not the only products. They give rise to agro-processing. There's need for agro-processing, making the food, processing further and making the food that they eat. And we usually say that, and it is true, that agro-processing sounds like one small word, but the permutations that come from there are many. The main staple food that they eat. And then you can go into things like the condiments, making butters, cheese, butter, cheese from dairy. And you can also go into making things like mayonnaise, peanut butter, jams, salad dressing. There's a lot of things based on the lifestyle and what the people in that particular area eat. And the presence of cotton gives rise to textile. Instead of exporting cotton raw as it is, add value to it, process it further, spin it, make textile, and that in the process also give rise to other forms of textile, like dyeing the cloth, the material that they make from cotton, dyeing it, or imprinting different patterns. And that also gives rise now to making garments, making clothes that you can make and export, or export textile after adding value to cotton, instead of just exporting cotton as it is. Because we say that by exporting raw materials, we are losing profits. We are losing the opportunity to create jobs for our people. Hence, high unemployment rate in Africa and high poverty levels. But we can reduce this by adding value to the products that we make. Also, there are opportunities in small consumer products. That would be things like making shoes, making furniture, making bags and belts. Also cosmetics, making, although sometimes you might have to import some of the stuff like the oils on the butters that they make, but making cosmetics like body lotions, underarm deodorants, hair products, facial skin products, there's opportunity to make those things locally in Rwanda. Factories are needed to make this. And once you go into agro-processing and these cosmetics and even things like a lipstick like this one that I'm wearing and makeup, once you go into these things, then there's a need for packaging material. And even presently as we talk, doing the research, we find that there is a need to go into making packaging materials like bottles, and with that also come labels. They need to put labels on these packaging boxes, and then that will give rise to logistics, that will be transportation, wholesale, and warehouses. Because once agro-processing grows, whatever you produce, you need to get it off the floor so that you keep on producing off the factory floor. So you will need it in the wholesale or warehouse, and you will need transportation, and in the process, your goods, as they are in transit, they also need short-term insurance. But we'll talk about insurance when we come to the relevant industry, because that is also an opportunity. Also, there are opportunities in electronics. We live in a digital era, and in an era where there's a lot of information, where almost everybody owns a cell phone, and so there's a need for that. And I say, instead of importing cell phones and being consumers of cell phones, let us own a slice of the digital electronics that we are using. Assemble them, rather import parts and assemble them. There's a lady in Botswana. She's assembling parts and making laptops and computers. She's selling in Botswana and in Namibia, and I think cell phones also. We can learn from one another. Instead of just being consumers, taking money out of Africa elsewhere, let us have a slice, because the electronic market, the digital space is growing, and it is not going down, and it is not going to diminish anytime soon. If anything, it is growing. Let us enter that space. For a start, let us start by importing parts, assembling them, and having a slice of the profits of this industry, instead of just being consumers that make a company elsewhere rich and taking money out of Africa. So there's the need in electronics, and with electronics there comes the need to provide internet, because we need connectivity. Internet that will be broadband and fibers, and also selling data. That is a need that exists currently in Rwanda. And also wood products. Wood products, that would be doors and door frames, rafters for building. The construction industry is growing, and for a number of reasons it is growing. Also driven by the fact that the economy is growing. The government is driving economic development, and Rwanda is one of the countries that has a high economic growth. As a result of the economy growing, people having more money to buy houses, the construction industry is growing, so there's a need for rafters, roofing materials, doors and door frames, window frames, also the need for glasses. There's also a growing need for bricks. Constantly they need bricks. You can go into making bricks in Rwanda, also making ceramic tiles And with ceramic tiles also comes the adhesive material to make it stick to the floor that would be grout. And there's also a need for making cement. There is room for new entrants in making cement in Rwanda. Also, the country wants to position itself as a venue for international conferences. As a result, this gives rise or gave rise to growing demand for rooms. As they build conference centers, there also is a need for rooms, which mean hotels and apartments and B&Bs, bed and breakfast, so that when the people come for these large international meetings, they have a place where they can stay. And it will grow because of its favorable position being in the center and of having developed infrastructure, because at the moment they are second to South Africa on the continent. And so that has given rise to growing demand for building and construction in Rwanda. That is another area. And also there's a need for with that goes the need for making paints, manufacture paint, because after building and putting cement and plastering, putting cement, then you need to put paint. There's a need for manufacturing of paints and plastics. There's also a need from doing research, a need for recycling. But to be quite honest, let us not just glorify some of these things. The people that are in recycling, they say that there is very little profit. There's not enough profit in recycling, but there is a need. There are opportunities in recycling plastic and paper in Rwanda. Also, they have been exporting chocolates and coffee. Rwandan coffee is known to be one of the best. I think the East, because we also did a study on Burundi. Their coffee is also one of the best. They have the best, and though they have the best, Rwandans are not big on drinking coffee. I think they probably drink tea or something. They export coffee a lot. It is good to add value, because we're talking about manufacturing, which in essence is adding value to our resources. Instead of exporting them raw as they are, it is good to add value, to roast them and to grind them and then export them, having added value to them, so that we don't give away our profits to somebody else who will import them raw and then process them further and export and make value, while we are giving them our opportunities. Let us grab this opportunity. It exists in Rwanda to process coffee beans. Also, they have been, I think, they are going that direction of adding value, because it is a drive by the government. They are also exporting chocolates, and they've been making chocolate bars and exporting them. But there is still room. The fact that 85% of the people are in agriculture, employed in agriculture. Agriculture contributes 75% to GDP. There's still room for more. And the thing with chocolate is that there's high demand for it, and that not many countries, West Africa, yes, they have cocoa beans, but not every African country has got cocoa beans. Rwanda has got. So there is room to make chocolate bars for local consumption and for export. Also, there is opportunity for solar energy production. The fact that a large number of the people are still in rural areas, and we know that in rural areas people do not necessarily have access to electricity. It makes the available market for solar panels high. So there's a need to make solar panels, and the market for it is also very large. And they are closer to the equator, so it makes sense. They have plenty of sunlight, so it makes sense also to make solar panels and make them available to the rural area that does not have access to electricity yet. Also, in the past, many people were unbanked, did not have access to banking services. Now, with growing economy and with everybody having a cell phone, there is a growing need for banking. So there is a need, or a room for one, two, three, four, many, or maybe other banks to come into Rwanda. And also this spells a need for techno companies to that app will allow people or make it possible available for people to access banking services through their cell phone or laptops. There is a growing need in that. And also, apparently, I think this is the last opportunity we could come up with. There is apparently a resurgence, or it's not even a resurgence because I don't think it was there before, but there is a growing appetite for people across the world, and particularly the African diaspora. They want movies from Africa, telling African stories, written by Africans who understand those stories and acted by people from the continent. That need is growing, and therefore there is a growing or there is an opportunity to move into that space in Rwanda, where you can move in and in partnership with somebody who will write the local stories of Rwanda and export those movies and distribute them abroad. But the thing with Rwanda, what we could come up is that it's fairly easy. It doesn't take long to register a business. But the thing is, the government requires anybody who wants to do business in Rwanda to have lived in Rwanda for at least a year. And if you have not lived in Rwanda for a year, then you can give that the powers of attorney to somebody else who will do all this on your behalf, or you can go into partnership with a Rwandan, which is what we are stressing in this NPO for the diaspora and for international investors to move or to come and invest in Africa in partnership with local people, small and medium enterprises, and do them in partnership with local people who come up with the idea, and then you bring the capital, because there are three things that are documented to inhibit entrepreneurship and a growth of business in Africa. One of them is lack of capital. There is no money, there is no capital. The people have ideas, but lack of capital is keeping them outside formal business. Rather, it gets many of them operating in small informal businesses, where we are preaching, where local people will come up with an idea, small or medium business idea that is bigger than an informal street trading or street vending. And then we form partnerships where the investor comes in and invests in, and they go into partnership with local people. And that's what the Rwandan government does. They require you to have lived there for at least a year, or go in partnership, or give powers of attorney to a local Rwandan to do that. So these are the opportunities that we could come up with, and you can see that by the economy being very agrarian, there are a lot of opportunities. And one thing very attractive about Rwanda is that infrastructure is there. It's not going to be extremely difficult. The infrastructure is there, and there is a lot of transparency. Corruption, the government is fighting corruption, so you're more likely to do business very smoothly, though business is never smooth. It has its ups and downs, but also the fact that there are not many people doing what you will be doing, it gives potential to high potential of making profit. I don't want to say it secures, because it's never secured in business. The security of profitability also comes from your business skills, technical skills, business skills, and how you do business, your business strategy, and all that. But if you get that right, and I know you will get it right, because particularly I'm talking with these videos, I'm targeting and I'm talking to business people who are already in business. They have made it and they are looking for opportunity elsewhere to spread their wings. But if you do it right, the potential to succeed is very high, because the level of competition is also very, very low. And so, my wonderful people, that is what I could come up with for today. And thank you so much for taking time to listen to me, and see you in the next video. And bye-bye.